Campaigns are about one thing and one thing only: winning.
No, they're about changing the world.
Gina Davis and Michael Keaton are campaign workers for competing candidates, and they fall in love while trying to outfox each other. Sound familiar? That's the story of Speechless, one of 6 big new movies we'll be reviewing on this special holiday edition of Siskel Ebert, along with Jim Carrey's latest comedy, a romantic epic western with Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt, a Roman Polanski political thriller, and much more. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is named Speechless, and it tells the story, and it does sound familiar, Gene, of 2 political speechwriters who find that opposites do attract. And amazingly enough, this movie is allegedly not inspired by the courtship and romance of James Carville and Mary Madeline, who were on different sides of the 1992 presidential campaign. Well, I can believe that, in part because the characters in Speechless don't seem to take politics very seriously, and the movie itself considers both candidates to be more or less worthless bozos. That doesn't keep the writers from losing sleep over their campaigns, however, and they meet for the first time in a battle over a bottle of sleeping pills.
My kid has this cough.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I see that for a second? I don't think these are for kids. These are, no, they're not. In fact, they're not even for coughs.
Gina Davis is the liberal here, and Michael Keaton is the conservative, although they don't know that when they fall in love later that night and the following morning.
The clutch.
Huh?
The clutch.
Just show me where your clutch
On the car.
Oh.
It's only when they both speak at a grade school career day that they discover they're on opposite sides of the political fence.
I will keep this simple in short syllables. I, B, this person in front of you. I do not, the international symbol for no. I do not want you to come near me again.
Speechless is a movie that started with a promising idea and then turned it into a sitcom because it was afraid, I think, to jump into real politics and go for real laughs.
Roger, I think this is an awful film, and it's a blown opportunity of what should have been a real knockover, a very easy film, because the Madeline Carville model is out there, whether we want to time date this picture or not.
Yeah.
If you're writing the screenplay and you know this story is going on, you say, hey, wait a minute, we better up the ante because the public already knows what this can be about. This screenplay didn't care enough to teach us a damn thing, excuse me, a darn thing about politics, speech writing, or political campaigns.
Oh, you know,
it is such an ignorant
Whatever
thing.
happened to the tradition of topical humor? Think of movies like 1, 2, 3 by Billy Wilder, made 34 years ago, mentions the Russians, mentions Americans, mentions the Cold War, mentions politics. The people in this movie seem to exist on a planet where politics are simply a backdrop for sitcom laugh lines.
This is a rough draft screenplay, number one. It has no energy to it. The other thing is I question whether Keaton and Davis have real chemistry on the screen together. I don't believe, as I looked at the two of them,
Well, they have real
like
charm. I said charm. I didn't say chemistry.
None at all. I never believed they liked each other at any time during the picture. Okay, next movie, and I'll admit this, Jim Carrey is growing on me. Hated him in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, enjoyed him in The Mask, and in his latest goofy comedy, Dumb and Dumber, Carrey gets the support he needs from a surprisingly smart script about dumb people. 2 dumb friends, played by Carrey and Jeff Daniels, lonely guys who end up traveling cross-country to Tony Aspen, Colorado, to return a briefcase belonging to a woman Carrey has a crush on.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Pretty funny. Once in Aspen, the boys are suddenly flush with dough. They accidentally open that briefcase, and so they can afford to attend a charity benefit dinner.
Excuse me, gentlemen. This is a $500 plate dinner. Good night.
Oh, 500. Oh, okay. All right, no problem. Here, put us down for 4, in case we want seconds.
Finally, Jim Carrey is reunited with his dreamboat, played by Lauren Holly, wearing more lipstick than any 2 actresses I've ever seen. She turns him down.
I came a long way just to see you, Mary. Just, least you can do is level with me. What are my chances?
Not good.
You mean not good like
1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
It's kind of sweet. He doesn't get it. Jim Carrey's humor is straight from the Jerry Lewis Sledgehammer School, and he wins you over if he doesn't turn you off through his energy and by having his comedy be a bit more knowing and nervy than it might seem at first. Dumb and Dumber is uneven, looks sloppy, but that's part of its appeal, too. It's sort of a jerk's home movie, a funny jerk.
You know, I can't give this movie thumbs up.
Really?
But on the other hand...
God, I heard you laughing.
You heard me not only laughing, I almost had to be hospitalized. There was one moment in this movie that is probably the funniest moment I've seen in 5 years of comedies, maybe longer. And there are a couple other moments that are pretty funny, too, including the when he's trying to get onto the airplane. In general, I think you put your finger on it when you say it's a sloppy movie. I think that they made it in a hurry, that they didn't really polish things. There are a lot of jokes that don't pay off. There are kind of build-ups that kind of are left hanging in midair. There are moments that seem to be very ill-advised and don't work at all. And on the whole, I found the movie wasn't nearly as good as its best parts. But I agree with you that Jim Carrey is growing on me, and I would not have predicted this. We have seen 3 of his movies in the space of 12 months, and after seeing Ace Ventura, I would have gladly done almost anything to avoid seeing him in another movie, and now I'm looking forward to his next film.
I think the sloppiness that I was referring to, though, is this guy, it's conscious. I think that this guy, it'll be interesting to see whether he can handle big budgets and polished...
well, his salary is making all of his movies big-budget movies now.
Now they will be, but in a way, I think that that's the whole relaxed, nerdy tone of this picture with the dumb car that they're driving around, the little van they're driving around that looks like a dog. I think all of that is a little bit more intentional than you might think.
I didn't think it really quite worked, but it certainly does have some good stuff in it. When we come back, Anthony Hopkins has 3 sons, all in love with the same woman in Legends of the Fall.
Oh. So this is Tristan. And does he speak English?
Tristan, for God's sake.
In a remote Montana wilderness, a young woman from the east comes to visit a family headed by patriarch Anthony Hopkins in that scene. She is engaged to marry the youngest and most naive son, but her beauty also attracts the eye of the middle son, who is the rebel, and of the oldest son, who is more responsible. That's the emotional situation at the core of Legends of the Fall, directed by Ed Zwick, who also made the Civil War drama Glory. Henry Thomas, who has grown up since he made E.T., plays the youngest son, and while his oldest brother, played by Aidan Quinn, relaxes on the court with the fiancée, Thomas confesses some of his fears to the middle brother, played by Brad Pitt.
She's sort of passionate. She virgin? Good Lord, Tristan. You brought it up. Well, of course she is. Are you? Wow.
Because of the First World War, the young man is unable to realize his plans for marriage, and eventually the older brother turns to the young woman, who is played by a newcomer from Britain named Julia Ormond.
I think you know that I'm in love with you. From the first moment I saw you, like in a novel.
There is a sense in which Legends of the Fall, based on a short novel by Jim Harrison, edges uncomfortably close to feeling like a melodramatic miniseries in which the Montana mountains are a backdrop for rampaging passions. But the movie is saved from that fate by the intelligence of the writing, the directing, and the acting. I was especially touched by Aidan Quinn's performance as the brother who never quite has either youth or recklessness or imagination enough on his side and actually loses because he tries to do the right thing.
I like this picture maybe even more, clearly I think more than you, Roger. I think it's really tremendous. I was impressed with in the writing and the directing because I haven't seen a movie that has taken this many number of characters and given them so much, so fleshed them out so much. It's very difficult to do. You have the father, the 3 brothers, the wife to be. That's 5. Then you've got the 2 supporting players.
The people who live there on the farm. Yeah.
That's 7 characters. Yeah. We know an awful lot about them, and how that's all done in the manner of about 2.5 hours is very, very impressive.
Yeah,
I never felt, when you call it a TV miniseries...
No, I said it edged in that direction.
Not
but then,
even close. It's a big production.
I'll tell you one area where I thought I actually had some problems, and that is in the scenes involving World War I. I felt there were, and I don't want to give away anything, but there are some coincidences there involving 2 people finding themselves in the same place at the same time that I had a problem with. And another thing, What about Brad Pitt's hair? I think he should have had a haircut.
I think Brad Pitt, this is a star-making role. He is going to be a big... I mean,
I'm the guy that thought California was one of the best movies of last year. I love Brad Pitt's work. I think he needed a haircut. I think that in this movie, his hair was an anachronism.
Absolutely not. I think that it's part of his verve of his character. He'll get an Oscar nomination for it, and there should be plenty. Well, there should be plenty out of this picture.
He's good in it, and so are the others. Okay, coming up, the classic story of a proud family, Little Women, is next.
I'll never have any suitors. I'll just be a dried-up old spinster.
You don't need scores of suitors. You only need one, if he's the right one.
Their names are Joe and Meg and Beth and Amy. They're Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, some of the most treasured characters in American literature. The members of the March family of Concord, Massachusetts, and this adaptation of Little Women is a first-class effort all around, marvelously entertaining, surprisingly so, as in this scene where we meet the young women, all four of them, as they act out a play written by Joe, Winona Ryder, leading a superb cast.
I'm exhausted of being the boy.
Play is the thing, Amy. You're too little to be Lady Violet.
Here, be the Countess de Montenescu.
You don't have any lines.
Besides, who would be our Roderigo?
The centerpiece of the film is the character of Joe and her relationship between two men. One, the boy next door, played by Christian Bale.
So, who are you staring at?
You. Actually, what game were you playing?
The other man she meets years later is older, a German immigrant teacher played by the wonderful Gabriel Byrne.
Your heart understood mine.
This is a first-class presentation. I think a whole new generation of Little Women readers, as well as older viewers, are going to be truly enchanted with this film. I know was. Credit Australian director Gillian Armstrong for taking on a classic novel and making, I think, a classic movie. I find it totally appropriate for young audiences and old. You know, I was completely surprised by the quality of this film.
You mentioned Winona Ryder in this movie. There is a scene where she tells Gabriel Byrne that it's okay for him to be in love with her. And she has a smile during that scene that lights up the scene like few smiles I've ever seen. She has a warmth. It's a wonderful scene.
It's a great...
And it kind of reflects on the whole movie. The one area where I'd be very curious to see if you're right or not is whether it is for young and old. I think it's more for old. I think the children are going to be a little bit confused by the movie and a little bit put off by the fact that it is such an intelligent and reasoned and mature and adult consideration of this story. These are not just four cute little girls who we can go see and enjoy. In that sense, they all have problems, they grow up, they deal with each other in ways that I think make it more appropriate probably for adolescents at least than for smaller
children. Well, I'm stunned. I think this is one of the year's best pictures. When we come back, Sigourney Weaver and Ben Kingsley in a bitter emotional duel in Roman Polanski's Death and the Maiden.
Continuing this special show devoted to the major new holiday releases, our next movie is Death and the Maiden, based on the well-known play by Ariel Dorfman. The movie is directed by Roman Polanski and set in an unnamed South American country, it's probably Chile, in a time when democracy is uneasily being reestablished after a period of dictatorship and torture. Early in the film, a distinguished lawyer played by Stuart Wilson has been given a lift to his isolated house by a distant neighbor played by Ben Kingsley. Then Wilson's wife has mysteriously driven off in the visitor's car in the middle of the night.
We can never entirely possess the female soul.
I don't know what that means.
Sure you do. You go insane wanting them. Doesn't matter what it costs you. You pay the price, but you still don't get what you expect.
The mystery of the woman's sudden disappearance is explained when she sneaks back into the house when everyone is asleep and makes Kingsley her captive. She has recognized his voice and believes he is the man who tortured and raped her years ago when she was a member of the resistance. Sigourney Weaver plays the vengeful wife.
Obviously, she's insane. She's not responsible for what she does, but you're a lawyer. If you don't stop this right now, you're an accomplice. You're going to have to pay the price.
Oh. You threatening?
I'm not.
Yes, you were.
But is he the guilty torturer? Kingsley is persuasive and agile in trying to defend himself.
Why don't you ask her?
Ask her what?
what she wants in the confession. I'll write down exactly what she wants, okay?
No. No, she wants it to be genuine.
How can it be genuine? I'm innocent.
I think the key to Death in the Maiden is in Ben Kingsley's performance, and he is a marvelous and subtle actor. And of course, our initial reaction is that the woman is telling the truth, but she was blindfolded. Could she have made a mistake? Kingsley works this opening for all it's worth during a long night of spellbinding back-and-forth tension. And because Polanski's direction never seems to declare for either party until the end, amazing suspense builds up. This could have been a boring morality tale, but instead, it's an intellectual thriller.
I'm glad that you mentioned Kingsley's work here. Here's an actor who, with Gandhi and his work in Schindler's List, could get typecast into just portraying holy men, saints. And he shows that he has a lot more range than people may have given him credit for, and it's a tremendous piece of work. Some of the line readings by Sigourney Weaver, I think, really clang. And then when she talks often in this picture, I hear the play, and it's why I didn't like the play when I saw it on Broadway. It seemed so talky, didn't seem real. But with Kingsley there, the decisions that are made toward the end of this play really justify what's going on before. And I was completely hooked at the very end of this film.
It's really fascinating the way he is so contained. I mean, another actor might have gone over the top, might have screamed, might have shouted. He internalizes it and makes it all the more louder because he's not shouting.
We're talking Oscar nomination times. Ben Kingsley, I think, a shoo-in for a nomination.
Okay, when we come back, a peek into the mind of the British monarch who the American colonies rebelled against. The Madness of King George is next.
Our next film is a treat, The Madness of King George, a most entertaining investigation of a curious chapter in the life of a British royal, a period of time late in the 18th century when King George III, the monarch the American colonies defeated, apparently went nuts, swearing in public, skirt chasing, and acting very much the ninny. Nigel Hawthorne plays the king brilliantly.
Fine cluster there, eh?
Come on, look, come on. You might learn something.
Good ass, too.
Meanwhile, in the back rooms of power, a couple of men, including the king's son, the Prince of Wales, as well as the leader of the opposition in Parliament, Mr. Fox, are delighted that the king is tottering.
What would happen if the king were ill? I mean, gravely ill.
Their Royal Highness would have to be declared regent.
Regent?
King in all but name.
And that's Rupert Everett as the prince. Called upon to heal the king following one medical failure after another is an unconventional therapist played by Ian Holm.
I am the King of England, no, sir! You are the patient!
The Madness of King George is constantly surprising. It starts out like it's going to be a comedy ridiculing the royals, then it takes a dark turn and finishes with a provocative surprise, all the while apparently staying close to the historical truth. In addition to the performance of Nigel Hawthorne as King George, I also want to single out Julian Wadham as the Prime Minister, William Pitt, and James Carter as his loyal opposition, Mr. Fox. Both make important historical figures that we've read about for years come memorably alive.
Boy, they really do. I enjoyed every moment of this movie. I want to see it again. I enjoyed it in a sense like I enjoyed Tom Jones. I mean, it's not a historical film. It's a rollicking, bawdy film with this great performance by Nigel Hawthorne, who makes King George into such an interesting person, so cantankerous, so offensive, yet at the same time so lovable, so vulnerable, until by the end of the movie we really like him.
What I appreciated is how it was able to do two things. One, it's very funny, and that, I mean, it's very funny and enjoyable, and that's the Tom Jones spirit you're talking about. At the same time, I felt that the way it portrayed Pitt and Fox was totally credible in the way that they were operating then. They weren't played for laughs. They were played in a more straight fashion that I thought was really good. Okay, that's it for this special show. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down for Speechless, the disastrous political romantic comedy with Michael Keaton and Geena Davis. A split vote on Dumb and Dumber, Jim Carrey's latest comedy. I liked it a lot more than Roger. 2 thumbs up for Legend of the Fall, Ed Zwick's epic drama set in the West with a star-making performance by Brad Pitt. 2 more enthusiastic thumbs up for Little Women, a surprisingly mature adaptation of the popular novel. 2 thumbs up for Roman Polanski's Death in the Maiden, with a superior performance by Ben Kingsley. And 2 more thumbs up for The Madness of King George. And we ought to mention that Legends of the Fall, Little Women, Death in the Maiden, and Madness of King George are all coming up for release in a week. We had to get to them early because there's so many pictures coming out this holiday season.
Okay, so look for them when they come around. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with another special holiday edition where we review more big movies, including Robert Altman's Ready to Wear, starring Kim Basinger, Julia Roberts, and Tim Robbins, in a comedy set in the world of Paris fashion. And Tim Robbins again, he also stars in IQ, falling in love with Meg Ryan, who is the niece of Albert Einstein, played by Walter Matthau.
Uncle Albert.
I'm Steve.
That's next week. And until then, the balcony is closed.
While you're watching your favorite movies, let Dynamark Security Centers watch your home. Call Dynamark today at 1-800-448-2891. Discover the Miracle, the original Bridals and Bows mane, tail, and hair shampoo, conditioner, and nail cream for beautiful, thick, healthy hair, bridals and bows. Brookline's new Feather Glide recliner glides easily, swivels through a full circle, and reclines effortlessly with fingertip touch motion. Brookline, the perfect holiday gift of comfort. It's America's favorite jelly bean, Jelly Belly, now appearing at theaters and video stores with good taste. Jelly Belly beans, try them. You'll love them.